Michael Marquess, dude, thank you for joining us, man.
Hey, it's good to be here again.
Yeah. It was, Luke, this was my first ever in-person podcast was with Michael.
And then your 100th anniversary podcast, right?
And 200.
Oh, okay.
Did we do 200? I thought we did.
We might have, yeah.
I think we might have.
I think we did over at Butler.
That's right. Right? Yeah. So exciting stuff, Michael.
It is.
Glad to it's exciting to be in this place and see how far this place has come.
Yeah, well, welcome to the new tap room here. It's kind of exciting. We have proper restrooms, a bigger bar. I mean, it's kind of fancy. People might start to expect things out of us.
I know. Be careful, dude. Be very, very careful. So, how recently did you guys do this? Because I feel like, Luke, last time we were here, it wasn't. I think we were still being out. You were still able to sit out where the darts and stuff were, right?
Oh my goodness, it's been a while since then.
Yeah.
So this started last October and went through January. We finished out just towards the end of January.
Okay.
So when you came in, you went past our little tiki bar out there. The crew served all winter out of that tiki bar.
Oh, wow.
So we got Carhartt jackets for everyone, and that crew was serving. I'm not sure who was crazier, the guests coming in the middle of the snowstorms and sitting outside with a beer, or our crew for serving them. But in either case, it was excellent. So we gave up this to the construction company, and they took care of it over the 3.5 months.
Yeah. It's beautiful, man. It looks fantastic.
Came out pretty well. Few last touches, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Nice, man. And so what year did Mother Road open?
Officially 2011, November of 2011. We're coming up on 10 years.
Dang.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible, man. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah. It was always in the plan, right? Ever since you were a kid, you wanted to be a brewer?
No, it was never in the plan. And quite honestly, when people ask, how's it feel to be making it towards 10 years? You look back in those first couple of years, we weren't sure we were going to be around in 3. So we're very pleased to be here at on the edge of year 10.
Yeah.
So all we have to do is just make it to November 17th, and then we can hang it up.
That's it. That's when we're heading to Costa Rica.
That's it. That's it. My 16-year-old, he's going to run the brewery. It'll be great.
Yeah. Are your kids into it?
They used to be into it when I was homebrewing, and they still grouse that I don't homebrew.
Okay.
And given the nature of brewing these days and all of our safety protocols, we're definitely not having the kids in brewing anymore.
Michael's like, was that a trick question? You having children in the brew house?
well, in the early days, I mean, we had kids up on top of the kettle pouring in buckets of hops, and it was a little looser, and it's just different now.
Yeah.
Instead of a staff of 3 or 5, we've got 35. It's a whole different animal, and I hate to say it, but we're having to behave like professional brewers. The early days were a little bit loose, and now labs and graduates of brew schools and people much smarter than me running the brew house.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And I know Luke is a huge fan because I knew exactly what. He had a glass in my Guts Tower station.
Yeah.
That's his favorite, right?
Yeah, that's one of my go-to ones, and I feel like for me, it's like a quintessential Arizona IPA. It's just classic, drinkable, very refreshing, and you can find it pretty easily, which is pretty cool for a relatively novel brewing scene in Arizona to see something like that, which gets me excited.
Yeah, it's still a great beer. I will let you know, and everyone out in podcast land, we do actually brew other beers, though. there are other beers from Mother Road.
It's just not the same. There's something about it for me.
Do you get a little fired up sometimes when enough respect is not given to the others?
Actually, I feel more bad for the brew team because we brew a lot of beers out of the original brewery for the tap room, one-off experimentals. And then we'll use the 40-barrel tank, the fermenter over at Butler, and we'll run brews through there. And I feel like the crew's not getting what they're due because they're brewing some really amazing beers, and we get visitors from all over the state. And what do? They come get a tower, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good one, but oh my God, there's 13 other delicious handles. You should really try. So our crew, the hospitality team here is really good at pushing samples on everyone to make sure they at least get a little taste of something else.
Yeah, that's something I've always loved about coming up here. Me and my father-in-law talk at least a couple times a year how we were, I think, the first picture on Yelp for you guys when you guys first opened. how that service level here has always been like another level, right? Where it's very like I've been to places where it's like, oh yeah, it's cool, it's my first time. They're like, okay, well, let me know what you want. Where other places, my first time, no shit, sit down, I got some things. That's the experience you get here.
And it's something that we have built into our culture. It's one of our values, being radical hospitality, and that's what we want here, is to make sure that if you're a first timer, or we've already poured your pint because we know your face and we know what you're going to be drinking, we want that to be equal to every guest that's coming in here.
Sure. Yeah. It's a great experience. Even back in the day, I'll tell this quick story, then we'll kind of get into chronological, because you know how my brain works, Luke, right?
I want to hear about some of the new beers you guys have on right now, too.
Let's talk about that, because my story was going to go... you guys, there used to be a basketball hoop out there, and I took a beer out there, and Cedar, like, came over the bar, like, blowing the whistle, technical foul. You were not allowed to have beer over by the basketball court, but I appreciated it. So, like, you know, that shows a level of respect you have for a staff, right?
I'm not sure what's worse, whether Cedar jumped over the bar or whether he's still working for us all these years later.
That's right. That's right. Yes, it's good to because I know he jumped around a little bit. He went to
he was out in Kalamazoo for a bit, but he came home to Flag, and we were lucky enough to snag him right back into the tap room.
Yeah. Yes. Cedar's great. I don't see him yet, but I hope to see him.
Yeah, I don't know if he's on today, but we'll keep an eye out there.
All right. So, new beers you're talking about.
Yeah, what are some of the one-off beers, or some of the lesser known beers that people should look out for if they come in sometime soon?
I've got a dry Irish Stout here right now, and I'm digging on it a lot. So this is one that we did recently. Kristen Ewer, who's our production manager,
nice.
She was working on this recipe with the brew team, and this is one of hers. And this followed her Irish Red as well.
Yeah.
We're just so happy to get this brew house back up and running down here, because it was, of course, down with the renovations. We couldn't be brewing in here, so it's nice to start seeing these beers come out again. But we're trying to do some things that maybe aren't out there as much. A little bit of mid-color, a little bit of dark, because I think I remember a time when it wasn't all just pale and hoppy.
Yeah.
There was a time, juicy, and pick any of those things. But there was a time when there was a diversity of beer. So it's kind of fun to brew some of these, and you definitely see some of your more seasoned craft drinkers getting excited about seeing some of those flavor profiles come back out.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of fun to do that.
Well, and talk about the perfect time for one of those beers, with it being a slew of dark and stormy days recently. That's the perfect beer for it.
Oh, indeed. It's been great up here. I love it when, no offense to all those folks that are down in the desert right now, but by God, when the hot day is here at 68 degrees after it rains, it's sure nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's the middle of summer here, obviously, but it feels like a winter day down in the valley right now, with the breeze and the rain hitting you every little bit. It is very refreshing.
It is. Yeah. It is. We pulled into town. It was like 82 degrees. I'm like, hell yes. Windows down. I was like a dog with my head out the window.
Well, speaking of dogs out the window, that's the other beer we have in tank right now that's going to be coming out is Perpetual Joy, which is a rebrew of the beer we did with Ninkasi before COVID. And so it's this beautiful lager and delicious.
Nice.
Yeah. I get to brew some things I want to drink.
It seems to be that period of time in the ownership of a brewery that, like, all right, you're going to brew. Now you're not going to get to brew at all for several years, and then you get back into it. So you're getting to get back into it.
No, no. Are you kidding? This crew won't let me anywhere near the brew house anymore.
Ideas, maybe, at least, yeah.
Sometimes I get to at least call a beer and look at the recipe with the team, but anymore it seems like so much of brewing is keeping the doors open, relationships, spreadsheets, distribution. It's all of the actual business of beer, and that's a weird place to be.
Sure.
As you transition from those early days and go from where you're doing everything, washing the kegs behind the bar, brewing, and now it's almost purely managing the business. And that's, I kind of expected that may happen someday, but it's a little weird.
Yeah?
It's still a little weird.
Yeah. You like it, though?
I'm still enjoying it.
Okay.
There are days I miss brewing, but this is where I'm needed right now. And maybe I'll work myself out of a job we sell a little more beer, maybe they'll fire me as CEO because they'll need someone smarter than me.
Is that the plan?
So
It's the plan. Costa Rica?
coming
He's on
up
his
on
phone right now getting his ticket.
coming up on your 10-year anniversary, looking back at it with that perspective, is there like a moment that clicked for you that you were like, man, this is really going to be something I never thought it could be?
Wow. I don't know. That's a good question. Man, I don't know. I think so much of this is I've been trying to focus on being in the moment and enjoying the successes that we have. I mean, of course, you're always planning out multiple years because that's what you have to do. But realistically, I've tried not to get ahead of myself and just enjoy those small little bits. Whether it's finishing a renovation, whether it's some new accounts, whether or not it's just we brewed a beer that we're really proud of, even if it never really sees the rest of Arizona, and we just enjoy it here in the tap room amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
It's really enjoying those small pieces like that. I don't know if there's been an aha moment. I always tell our crew that, we're on this road trip together, and there's not really a here there. We're not really going to a specific place. We're enjoying this journey, and we have little places we stop once in a while, but we kind of tend to keep going.
The trip is the trip, right?
It's all about our adventure that we're on, and that's where we're at. Because I used to have some crew that were like, well, when do we know we're there? I said, I don't think there is a there. I think we're just enjoying what we're building as we go. And
I dig it.
That makes it a lot more fun, I think. Because how fun would it be if I just said, we build another brewery and that's it? Well, that's not fun. Then there's, it's just like a road trip when you're out there and you look over that horizon. You want to know what's over the horizon.
Oh, for sure.
So I don't want to just stop before the horizon. I want to keep going.
Because there's another horizon, right?
Always. Yeah. Always another horizon. Always another flat tire.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of adventures. So I kind of don't want it to end.
Well, when you see the root of a company, some of them are financial, some of them are value driven. And to be, almost 10 years in now and still getting excited with the crew about a beer as opposed to focusing on how many more locations can we open and stuff like that. That is, how you can have a family type business grow and grow, but still have those core values rooted in it. And I think that's one of the reasons why you guys have probably been so successful. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's really that we put the culture of who we are ahead of everything else. We now actually hire new crew on culture. Obviously when we just hired Jeff Eaton out of Fort Point out in San Francisco to head up the brew team. He had to have some good skills, right? He had to know what he was doing out there, but at the same time, he had to fit our cultural values. Whereas on some of our entry-level positions now, I don't care if you've never poured a beer in your life or if you don't know one end of the keg from the other. That we can teach and train, but we can't teach culture.
Absolutely.
So, if you can kind of immerse yourself in our culture, then that's where we want you to be.
So how would you describe that culture then to someone who's coming in and looking to work here?
It all comes down to our mission, brewing distinguished beers and building community one pint at a time. We just put it up on the wall in neon. They haven't turned it on yet because it's not quite dark enough,
nice.
But it is about building community one pint at a time. It's about being involved with your community and being part of that. We wouldn't be here if Flagstaff hadn't supported us in those early years when our beer was a little bit on the weak side and shaky side in those early days, as most breweries are, and we wouldn't be here if the community hadn't supported us through COVID-19 with to-go sales. We owe everything to Flagstaff and Arizona for backing us through this, as well as all of our crew from day one. Each of these crew have done one thing, some of them more than one thing, that have advanced our brewing, advanced our hospitality, and brought us to where we're at.
It's got to be a pretty awesome experience to think as well that the building of the community a pint at a time doesn't just occur here, but with how far-reaching the can sales are now, it's at a scale that must be relatively hard to comprehend, even with some spreadsheets.
I am still I am still a little kid. There are places I'll walk into and I'll have a little giggle because I'll see our beer on the shelf, and it's such a goofy moment because I still can't believe that were there. That some of these far-flung stores on 66, these little gas stations, mom and pop, and there's Mother Road beer on the shelf. What I love more is that my kids will still do the date code check with me, so it's kind of fun. Make sure we're rotating stock out there.
What do you look for? Like, so that's a good, because that was one of the biggest things I tell, because people are like, oh, you're a beer snob. I'm like, no, I'm not at all. I'm down for all kinds of different, I prefer some over the others, right? However, I am a snobby when it comes to dates, right? Like it's a little ridiculous sometimes, Luke, right?
Yeah, well, you'll see one that, like, the weirdest one to me is when you can tell it just got on the shelf because the Best By date is like 6, 7, 8 months out. And I'm like, that's not very reasonable. And it'll be like a blonde ale or something like that. And then you see the ones that have the canned on date and they're, 2-3 months past, and you're like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
That's why we put both. We have a canned on and a Best By. So.
Okay. And what is it? Is it up to each place to like kind of? Is there a guideline?
It's up to the brewery.
Okay.
So we do the decision based on all of our lab analytics, our stress tests, what we think the accounts are going to do to the beer.
Yeah.
Because some places are beautiful. I mean, I know when we send our beer to Hensley, it's in a cold truck, it goes to a cold warehouse, it's on a cold truck outbound, and then it goes to the retailer. At that point, you never know what's going to happen. Some places take excellent care. Some places are warm shelves. So you kind of put a date on there that makes it appropriate for whatever conditions you might go. So like for all of our very highly hopped beers, we go 90 days on those because we feel comfortable with some abuse out in the trades that'll still be a delicious beer at 90 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, too, where a lot of people don't realize that. Like, I've gotten, you do the can flip and you get the weird looks from people. They're like, what are you doing with the beer? You're going to mess it up or something. But the more and more people that understand the shelf life of beer and those kinds of things, the more that becomes important to educating a consumer. And putting both the canned on date and the Best By date is kind of a way of, I don't know if the best way to say it is calling your bluff, but saying to people, we know that this is going to be good in this range and this is what we're confident with. And that builds trust with the consumer as well, for sure.
And you want an educated consumer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you want them to be looking for beer that's within code, that's been well cared for, and really shopping those retailers that are taking good care of the beer, that maintain their draft systems, clean them regularly. You want to shop where the beer is good.
Yes.
We do our best to make sure it's perfect as it leaves the building, and then we hope it goes to the best retailers that are taking care of it once it comes into their building.
Yeah. And the educated consumer, right? Because, and that's why I tell people, like, look at the dates, because like they may have a beer and they're like, oh man, that's horrible. And I'm like, dude, that thing was like a year and a half old. Of course it's horrible. Like, I always tell people, if you can, like, don't judge a beer till you go to the brewery. Like when you drink it in the brewery, that gives you a truer taste of, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's bad advice or not, Michael, but
I don't know. I guess, go where you trust your beer cellar.
There you go.
That's the good advice.
I was going to say this before too. So I love how you were talking about, there's not really a destination. It's more about the path, right? And it says right there on your guys' glass, finding joy in the adventure, right? I mean, so it's built into that's not a new thing. That was from the beginning. I remember the glasses from the beginning had that. Yeah.
No, that's going way back. And that was really based off of Alyssa's grandparents and my grandparents, and learning how to really live your best life. And why not? I mean, there's going to be good days and bad in brewing, and on the balance, they're all pretty damn good.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially this is the Conserve and Protect.
Oh, yeah.
What is, tell us the story about this one. So it's a golden ale.
So it's golden ale. The story is probably more important than anything. This is our partnership with Arizona Game and Fish, and we just completed 2 years of partnership and re-signed another 2. And what we're doing is Game and Fish is a completely self-funded agency, right? No general funds out of Arizona State. So one of the things that's happening is a lot of hunters and anglers are aging out, if you will, and so they're trying to get a hold of a new group of folk that want to know about the 800 species that they're conserving with on-the-ground conservation efforts. So part of that is craft drinkers are that next generation, right? Our sweet spot is 21 to 55. And so we've partnered with them to educate the public on what Game and Fish is doing, that they're not just hunting tags, they're also conservation. And we donate $1 per case sold right back to the state.
Nice.
We actually have a meeting first week in August where we're going to present a check and go out to the meeting in Williams, which will be a lot of fun.
How does something like that come together for you guys?
Okay, so I'd love to say I have all the good ideas and be that guy, but I am so not that guy. Our crew has the best ideas. And it was actually Caitlin Cummings. She was one of our taproom managers, and she was having a couple of towers with her dad. Of course, right?
Yeah, of course.
And the best ideas are after the second tower. And her dad, he works for Game and Fish, and he said, wouldn't it be cool if we could brew a beer for Game and Fish? And that was the impetus. It went through. We have a process for vetting new ideas. We do something called Stop, Start, Keep, where we meet with every employee once a quarter, and they tell us what to keep doing, what to stop doing, what to start doing, and then we vet those ideas. So this was along those lines, and Oliver, our director of people and culture, got a hold of this idea, and he brought it to me. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? That's the most awesome thing I've ever heard!" And it rolled from there, and it came together, and actually, politics aside, it culminated with us on the stage with Governor Ducey, recognizing the public-private partnership, and it was really fun.
Yeah.
Nerve-wracking, though. Try cracking a can of beer for the governor and not dropping it.
You go into shotgun mode, and you're like, you get the key. Sorry, sir.
That would have been fun, but there was too much press there for any fooling around.
Yeah.
It was all straight lace and tie and all. So
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Well, I was gonna say, I do have to do a little complaining on my own.
Okay.
One of the beers that really changed my life was Lost Highway. So, I mean, I have so many memories. I have like a memory of us like dancing through a field, me holding one in my hand, like slow motion, right? Like we're holding
and then there's all the memories you don't have from Lost Highway.
Blackout IPA, I called it. Yeah.
We called it night juice because at 8% it would kind of sneak up on you.
Yeah, when you guys, I remember I would always come up on weekends because we'd come and see the in-laws, and I think you had like 350 Imperial pints, right? So we're drinking like 23 ounces. Is that how big an Imperial pint is? 22 or 23?
They were 20 ounces back in the day, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember 2 or 3 of those, and my wife would pick us up, and she'd be like, "It's 2:00." I'm like, "Those black IPAs are amazing." What happened? What happened to Lost Highway?
Lost Highway is the most popular beer ever since we stopped selling it.
Really? Yeah.
So it's the most popular beer that nobody bought.
Sure.
And I hate to say that, but it was not performing terribly well in the trades. It's still a favorite, and we'll still brew it from time to time seasonally here in the tap room, but it just wasn't selling enough to make it go through and maintain freshness. And that starts getting to be a thing that then starts hurting your retailers, hurts your distributor. And it was a tough call, but I've killed several beers over the last 10 years, and I love getting yelled at by everyone. It's pretty awesome. Right. But it basically just wasn't selling enough to pull through out in the market to keep it fresh enough. And at that point, we just can't do it anymore, because I can't then guarantee the consumer, just like we were talking date codes, that everyone's going to rotate properly, that it's all going to be pulled in time, whereas all of our other beers are, they're rotating through it at a proper clip.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. You can have one here on tap.
You have one today?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it on? I didn't.
Nah. Well, I mean, that's a good point, because I love black IPAs. But I mean, if I buy 4-pack, I'm going to drink one, and then it's going to sit, because it's a heavy beer. You got to dedicate yourself to that. And me and my father-in-law always talk about that. Like, we would bring the Lost, we get it down in the valley, and we drink. I'm like, this is great, but man, it's just something about that patio, and just so it was everything. It was a full encompassing experience, which is I mean, that's
which is so much what beer is, right?
Exactly.
I mean, beer is the experience of drinking. It's who you're with, it's what you're eating, it's what's around you, the weather. that's what makes a great beer experience.
For sure.
The beer is just one part of it.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely, man. Well, so we should go back a little bit, right? Because we jumped the gun a little bit and went through some great stuff, which I love, right?
Isn't that how most beer conversations are?
Exactly.
They kind of ramble from here to there, and maybe we get around to it at some point.
As long as the beer is flowing, we're good to go. So no, I can't remember I know you went to NAU, but are you from Arizona?
No, I grew up in Medford, Oregon, and came down here for school in 1992.
Okay. To NAU?
NAU, yeah.
Okay. For what was the career path? What was Michael Marquess going to be?
What was I going to be when I grew up? I went into the hotel restaurant management program, so I knew I was always going to be in hospitality. And and then I took 9 years to get that degree. Because that's, I wanted to make really sure that I liked NAU and Flagstaff. No, I went for a couple of years, went and worked a couple of years, and then came back and finished my degree. So, yeah.
Is that when you were into the real estate or the?
No, I was working out in Minnesota for Wyndham Hotels.
Okay.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah, Minnesota, huh?
I didn't do the suit and tie terribly well.
No, you don't seem much of a suit and tie guy.
Not so much. I mean,
Yeah.
I can do it when I need to,
Sure.
but on a daily basis, it was not for me. And the corporate life, they taught me a great deal. Wyndham actually at that time, it's before they kind of went under and then got bought out by the timeshare company and everything. They were actually an excellent company to work for. Great training, some of the best training I've ever had.
Okay.
But the corporate life was not for me. It was very strict. It was very stringent. It didn't work so well. It was not my natural.
No. Well, sometimes that's kind of the payoff in a way, right? Because we were talking about that on the way up. I worked 9 years for University of Phoenix, huge corporate company, and when I was done, he's like, the dry stout, one more.
Well, I'm liking it. What can I say?
Hey.
This is. I've been on vacation, so this is my first taste. This beer came out of tank on
nice.
Friday, and I haven't had a chance to taste it yet.
I'm gonna have to get one of those at some point. So the process. This is gonna go off the rails pretty quickly,
as it should.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's that corporate structure now that we're building this. Our company. It's coming around like, oh shit, that actually helps. Like that actually, it limits, but it also that systems and the structure they create is pretty. Get pretty envious of it sometimes, right?
You need to have a balance of it.
Sure. Yeah.
And I appreciate it now, and we're small enough to still be nimble that we can, we can still have a corporate structure. I mean, I'm the CEO now. I mean, I had all sorts of goofy titles back in the day, but now it's clearly CEO, and I'm chairman of the board. So I have a board that's my boss. They are my boss, and they report back to the shareholders and the consumers. And so it's all different than that kind of Yahoo mentality of the early days. It is a business. And you can still have craft and art within that business, but at the end of the day, it still has to be a business. Thank you.
And that makes sense why. It took me a little while to figure out how the founder of Men's Warehouse could get fired by Men's Warehouse. He was the CEO, but right, it's not that he's just the big boss. He might be the CEO, but he answers to somebody, and they can tell him to get.
Yeah, and when you guys were asking it earlier about how's it changed, it's decisions you make now affect a lot more people. I mean, we have shareholders,
Sure.
we have bondholders, we have employees. We have consumers, guests, distributors. There's so many more people in the ripple that if we screw something up, it really makes a big mess. And when you're trying to make decisions now, multiple years, I mean, we're considering, do we build another brewery right now? As we run out of space at the Butler facility, that's a big decision. I mean, this
Sure.
is many, many, many millions of dollars of decision, and you want to get it right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because when did you open Butler?
We opened it in February of 18.
And how long did you expect it to last?
Longer than this.
And I think it was pretty quick because we did that, I think, episode 200 at Butler. Mm-hmm. And I think at that point you were already like You hit your capacity pretty quick, right?
I mean, we're adding about another 50% of fermentation this month. Those tanks will start installing first week of August, and that's very exciting because that'll bring us up to about 27,000 barrels of capacity at Butler. But it's gonna run out.
Yeah.
At the rate Arizonans keep drinking. Thank you for that, by the way.
Right.
I love you guys out there for drinking, but oh my goodness, trying to keep up some days. Our team's working hard for you.
Yeah. Well, so how did the idea so you went to school for hospitality management, or was that hotel management?
Hotel restaurant management,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think they might call it hospitality administration now. I think they've classed it up a little too.
Yeah.
Can you believe they actually invite me over there to lecture once in a while?
I can't believe that.
It's
no.
kind of it's kind of the most ridiculous thing to be in a classroom I was in 20 some years ago.
Yeah.
That's got to be a surreal experience.
It is very weird. It's even more fun if you get to go down and lecture at the business school. And they're like, but how did you do that by not having an MBA? And I'm like, you just keep showing up.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And you deal with it. But I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent.
No,
there.
you went directly in the direction that I had went, so you just followed my lead. Where I was going to was, so you went to, where did you go after? Because I know there was a period of time you were a real estate appraiser, right?
Right. So what happened is in '99, my buddy Alan York, great guy, great chef. I'd worked restaurants. I'd worked front of the house and he was back of the house. He invited me over to homebrew one day. He's like, you're going to love this. And I said, no way. The only thing I've had is crummy. I had crummy homebrew in college. It was nasty stuff. I hadn't had a good homebrew yet. And we did we did the extract on the stove, electric stove. I mean, it was just very rudimentary. 2 weeks later, he had me over. We bottled. And 2 weeks later, we took him out to go fishing at Lake Mary. And I popped open, I think it was an amber. Remember those?
Yeah, yeah.
It was 1999, man. Amber was cutting edge.
Yeah.
But I cracked this beer and it was delicious. I had never had anything delicious. I'm like, we made this ourselves. And I just kind of got hooked. I went and bought a kit from Homebrewers Outpost. They used to be on the top of the hill at Humphreys there. Now gone, but I got hooked. And I went immediately, I think within a year and a half, I was out of extract and doing all grain, and I loved doing it.
Were you into beer? Like, were you into drinking craft beer at that point, or was it like
I had been drinking craft beer. I mean, Sierra Nevadas, Pete's Wicked,
Sure.
a little bit of Celis, Celis Ale back then, but nothing like there is now, of course. Yeah. But it was great. And so I started brewing, and I was not a terribly good brewer.
No.
I'd have a really good one and then two stinkers. I'm not a scientific technical guy. And that is why we've always had a proper brew team here, is to keep me square, because it wasn't good, but it kept me sane. So I went into real estate appraisal after coming back, finishing my degree, and brewing is what kept me sane. It kept me still kind of in that food and beverage realm, which is where my heart is.
Yeah,
that's what I love. So that kept me going for years, and then it was finally Alyssa, my co-founder and ex-wife. She went ahead and kind of kicked me in the butt and said, maybe we should do this brewery.
Yeah.
And that's what got me going, because I was hating real estate appraisal.
Did you do real estate appraisal just like you have a young family and you just got to like take a certain, why did you choose that?
Random chance.
Okay.
I was managing a cafe in downtown Flag for $22,000 a year in 2001. And I finally snapped. I didn't want to be making $22,000 while working 70 to 75 hours a week for someone else. And a buddy of mine just happened to be doing some physical therapy on an old guy that wanted an apprentice. And that's where it went. I didn't know anything about real estate or appraisal or anything else.
Yeah.
But I went for it because it was something that I knew I could make a little bit better money. And it was a good thing. I mean, it allowed Alyssa and I to buy our first house. Allowed us to really, have a pretty good life until the Great Recession in the mid to late 2000s. And at that point, I was burnt out. I wasn't enjoying it. Without having food and beverage in my life and people, it just wasn't the same. So
yeah,
I knew I had to get back into something. And the home brewing was making me happy because it was so much fun. 4 ingredients. it's still magical to me. I don't know. I know that sounds so childish, but it's still magic that in 2 weeks we've made something that we can share and be sitting here at a table enjoying together.
And people enjoy it in the masses,
It's still wild to me.
Yeah.
And so I guess until it loses that magic, I'm going to keep doing this because I'm enjoying it so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was basically this kept me sane during that time.
So you make the decision to open this place up, right? So this is, so I know you opened in 2011. When did the planning of this start?
Officially in 2010. So
Okay.
I end of July in 2010, I wrapped up all of my appraisal work, and August 1st, I'm like, okay, I'm a brewer today. That was it. I just said, okay, now I'm going to be a brewer. Not that I knew a damn thing about it, but didn't stop me.
Hey, sorry to interrupt your story, but like you had said, though, you can teach skill. You can't teach culture, attitude, right? You had the attitude
and
maybe
showing
not the
up.
skill.
I mean, really half of what we do is just showing up day after day.
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're
Look
welcome.
at that.
Talk about showing up. This one just showed up right in front of you, right there, buddy.
I know. It's like magic. There's beer just appearing in front of me, and it's right in reach of my hand.
A beautiful colored beer too, but
Yeah, that is.
sorry to interrupt you there.
No, that's like almost a neon flamingo pink. I like that.
You like this? This is it's got a. So we used. So this is the Tap That Hazy IPA. Brewed
Yep.
this with Simple Machine. Used Sonagua malt or grain R&D. I'm jacking this whole thing up. Luke, you got to edit all that.
You know what? If there's not a little bit of product placement, what is there in life?
That's right. That was my shot. I'm going to move on. I messed it all up. But no, so it's a hazy IPA double. It's 8.2%, and this one we use prickly pear.
Oh, well, there you go.
And Neo Mexicano
cheers.
hops. Yeah, cheers to you too, man.
Cheers.
Big cheers. So this is a wild hop that grows in New Mexico. And on this one, we cut down the Zappa hop because it's pretty earthy because of the prickly pear. Mm-hmm. And this is all stuff I'm regurgitating that Marshall says because I don't know what I'm doing. but no, I'm proud of this beer. This is really good.
Great.
What are your thoughts?
I like it.
It's good.
It's I really like how it kind of finishes a little bit clean and dry.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yep, I think that was some tweaks you made to this last batch. It's 8.2%.
A little bit of tartness. That's very refreshing.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Well
Thank you.
done.
Very proud of this one. And my name is even on the can right there. Eric Walters, first and last.
Not just a podcaster, not just a pretty face.
Right? I'm expanding my horizons. Yeah. Well, my interviewing skills are going downhill for sure, so I got to make it up somehow. But no, so you decide you're going to open this place up. Yep. Now, so at that point, I mean, what was it just Flag Brew and Beaver Street?
Let's see. We had no. There were more than that. There was Flag Brew, Beaver Street, Lumberyard had just opened.
Lumberyard
had opened. Muggion was still around, hanging on by a thread. That kind of had their run. So we were the fifth brewery, I believe, in Flag.
Yeah.
And then followed up shortly by Wanderlust and. Who else came after that? Was it Historic or Dark Sky next? I don't remember now.
Yeah. All within, it's a whirlwind of a few years though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So
you decided to open up this, but like, how did you find like this spot?
Okay. So once we settled on the name Mother Road, because we couldn't believe that no one had taken that name for Route 66. And so we started cruising Route 66 looking for places. And we were lucky enough, this is on the original alignment, there was a for rent sign nailed to the side of this building.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, ooh, that's cool. Because I'd been in this building when I was in college, picking up linen for the inn at NAU. And it was like, yeah, this is cool. Let's call. And we had missed the rental. They'd already rented it. It was going to be a garage. So if you can imagine where we were sitting, would have been one of the garage bays for an automotive repair shop, which, this is a laundry building. It really wanted something wet and steamy in it, because it had been a laundry building since 25. So what's good for laundry is, of course, good for beer. So it had big water, big drains, big electric, big gas. It was just perfect for us.
That's awesome.
The landlord called me. He said, the other guy fell through. Come on over. Give me what you want to do. And this is on a Wednesday afternoon at 3. And this is Mike Mongini, local attorney, great guy. He supported us all the way through since the beginning. And he's like, okay, 48 hours. Come back and tell me on Friday if you want it and bring a check for $5,000. And we're like, okay. And of course, knowing nothing about beer or brewing, which we didn't, we got an architect and we said, do you think we can do this? And they're like, maybe. And that was that. And we went on a maybe. We signed a lease, gave him $5,000, got the keys on a Friday afternoon, December 10th. And then my son took a picture of us sitting in here grinning like absolute morons. Right about where we're sitting, actually, is where we were standing. And he took a photo of us, and it's awesome.
Does that moment ever pop back up in your head? I mean, I'm sure you have to tell that story on occasion. Is that something you think back on?
I think back on it constantly because it's one of the things you have to remember every time I'm getting down on myself or I'm starting to get down on the business because we're not getting somewhere fast enough. I have to remember that it took 10 years to get here, and it was all of those individual little steps as we went. Because, I mean, obviously we didn't emerge as it is into the third largest brewery in Arizona. It has taken 9 years to get here. And that's one of the fun things is you're constantly going forward.
Well, when you talk about the true embodiment of the American dream and then playing back into the old Americana that's part of your brand, it's a beautiful way it's all come together. It's like the most full circle package of that kind of ideology that I can come up with.
It is pretty cool. There are sometimes I look around and can't believe I'm living my life.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's someone else's life because it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you say, you think back on it when you're feeling down, and as, a business owner, that's something that any business owner, even, people be outside of business owning experiences where you look down on yourself and you feel, sad, and then you think about how far you've come. But as a business owner, it's like running a business, you're constantly pressured to grow and grow and grow. And to do that and be able to look back on a moment like that, and we're in here now, especially with the new renovations, thinking about that moment, that's got to be a pretty incredible thing to kind of mull over in your head.
It was a lot of fun. It was actually very bittersweet to tear the old bar out. I did keep the bar top. I'm going to do something unique with it. But it was a little tough to tear it up because we had hand built so much of this originally. Mm-hmm. And to tear it out was a little sad. Although I did finally get what I truly wanted, which was nice bathrooms and a bigger bar, because that was always the hardest part. You want to do the opposite of radical hospitality, make people stand 10 deep in a line doing the potty dance on a Saturday night.
Yeah,
that's not radical hospitality. So we knew that had to change, and it came up quicker than we thought. We were shocked at how willing guests were to come out during COVID. And I think that's a credit to Oliver, who ran our COVID program and is continuing to run our COVID program, and this crew maintaining good protocols on the sanitation and everything else that made those guests feel comfortable coming in. We just got clobbered. I really did not think that many folk would come out, and I'm thankful they did. And the crew thanks them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if I missed this. I the battery's going low. I don't know if you saw that, but
no, I didn't.
No, saw me jump on it.
I did pay the power bill, and we could have plugged in right here, man.
I know.
I could have spotted you a little bit of wattage there.
I don't even know the last time I used one of those, but this would have been the time that I would have used it. Yeah, but I don't know where we were in the process of. So you guys opened the spot up. Did you get into the growth of like expanding into the valley and when distribution started?
Oh, expansion into the valley? Oh, you mean when we would send a truck down? Oh, God, we had this kid. We called him JV for junior varsity.
Yeah.
And actually, he's grown up to be a really cool guy. And it's fun. He'll stop in when he comes back into flag. But he would load his little pickup truck up. We'd probably send 5, 10 half barrels, a couple of torpedoes, hit all the beer bars, Boulders, Spokes on Southern, all those kind of ones that used to take the beer, 8, 9 years ago. Mm-hmm. He'd leave here at 4 a.m. with white tarps over the kegs and ice bags all over them because of the summertime
Yeah.
to get them delivered in time before they got baked in the sun. That was our first distribution because we were with a local distributor up here that was just not a good cultural fit for us. They run things differently than we do, and it was good when Hensley came around and asked if we would be interested in making the move. And at first we said no, we wanted to be loyal to the local distributor, and they were going to keep the horseshoe, and Hensley would take us down south. And then Hensley said, no, we'd really like you statewide. We want to build your brand. And we were their 13th craft beer behind Four Peaks.
Oh, wow.
If you remember all that fun and hullabaloo when Four Peaks was moving from, I believe it was Alliance back then. And so our deal was held up behind Four Peaks, and then as soon as Four Peaks closed, Hensley brought us on, and we never looked back after that. And then we started laughing that we were really thinking that it was advisable for us to be running half barrels down, for like 10 accounts in Phoenix. It was the silliest thing, but also those early craft bars that brought us on helped kind of ease us into there.
How soon after opening did that whole process unfold?
Hensley picked us up. It was just about a year after we opened.
Okay.
Because one of the lesser told stories, and I tell this to the MBA students and the business students because they do need to know, is that by December of 12, Hensley had just signed us in November of 12. We were about to go bankrupt. And we were about to go under because we had undercapitalized, as most brewers. I mean, you always think sales are going to be higher and it's going to cost less, and realistically, it's half as much revenue and twice as much expense. This is what I tell the business students now. I don't know if they'll listen to me when they become entrepreneurs, but we did almost go under, and it was the toughest time. I had all these crazy plans. I had every sort of crazy plan ready to be unleashed at this meeting in the old map room before that was even the map room over there.
Yeah.
We're sitting on a bunch of stools. I think we had 890 of the 1,000 voting shares there, and one of my shareholders, my mentor, Tom Gregory. This guy is one of the smartest people I know. He stands up in the middle of the meeting after I'd presented these plans, and he starts pointing his finger at me. How much language am I allowed here?
Fucking light it up, man.
Okay. He points his finger at me, and in front of all the other shareholders, he says, "You're a fucking asshole." And I crumple. I'm about ready to go into tears because, this is my whole life and dream. And then he follows up with, "You should have trusted us and come to us sooner." And at that point, he says, "Here's what we're going to do." Because at this point, Alyssa and I had put in our last $50,000 out of savings. We'd borrowed against some stuff. We were done. We were all in. That was it. And he said, "These guys have already put in their last, so we're all going to do $100 a share right here, right now. We're writing checks, and that's going to be that." And it passed unanimously, and that was the turning point. If there was ever a turning point, that would have been it. From absolute disaster and ruin to smarter management of cash and remembering that it doesn't matter how good the beer is you make if you can't keep your door open.
Yeah.
And that was that hard lesson at the end of year one, or beginning of year two, I guess is how you would see that, right? And we never looked back after that. That was really the point where we knew it all could fail, and we became better stewards of our own cash, but better stewards of our brew house, and thinking about how we brewed.
I'm about to shed a tear right now. That was beautiful.
It was not good. I actually, once they voted, I had to wander into the back for a minute. We used to have that behind the dartboards.
Yeah.
I had to go behind the dartboards, and I came back out, and there's 3 families that hold the next 24%, and they were giving me hugs, and of course I have tears in my eyes. And Sherry Dallum, she looks at me and she's like, "Is there something the matter?" And I'm like, grain dust in my eyes.
You just keep a pocket full of grain dust just in case you need to use it.
Yeah, it's all over. No, it was crazy, and I think that's where you see a lot of brewers wanting to get into beer because of the money. you don't get into this because of money. I'm not saying you have to get into it just because of love, too. I mean, it's got to be a nice balance between the two. But realistically, it's so capital intensive, and the margins at small scale are tough. Unless you're selling everything you make over your own bar, in which case you can do pretty well there. But once you start distributing, it's not massive margins. You're not going to make money until you hit a certain volume. And we didn't realize that. I think we just jumped in thinking we're going to do this. Nothing's going to stop us. And we just took our attitude and ran with it. And we ran up against the financial thing of $0. I mean, I was laughing. Our office manager, Carol, was remembering when we owed $3,000 and we had maxed out our credit of $3,000 to, I think it was Great Western Malt. And then we had to go to Breese and we maxed out our credit there.
Yeah.
And then eventually we had to come up with like $6,000 to pay for malt and payroll. And it was so miserable back then. And
So what kept you, I mean, what kept you, because very easily after something like that, it could have been easy. Like if I was in something I didn't like, or maybe something I wasn't sure I liked, and then through that afterwards, I'd be like, fuck this, right? What was it that like why are you still here?
I'm here because I knew I had the backing of the shareholders, and at that time, Alyssa had my back. She and I were great business partners together. I had the kids to think about because I didn't have a fallback. I mean, we went all in.
Yeah.
I mean, this was like you get to the new world, you burn your ships, and you have great motivation.
Yeah.
That was here, and so that was it. It was we almost had to succeed, and I think it's another pet peeve. The guy that owns the gym I go to, we have a pet peeve of when people have hobby gyms or those sorts of things. It makes it less. You don't have to work so hard if you know you don't have to work so hard, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Whereas once we knew that this was everything, the house was collateral, everything that we owned was titled into the brewery, you had to do it. And that's a powerful motivator.
Your ships were in a crisp at that point, right?
Yeah, we're done. We're here. We're going for it. But it's different. But it does have to be that balance of love and money, because if you can't make payroll, it doesn't matter how good your beer is. And I think we're seeing that now with COVID and some of the closures of this last year, sadly in Arizona and across the country, where it may have not had the best business sense. Could have had great beer, but maybe not the right business.
Sure.
And so it's a tough one. It's a tough racket, but it's got some of the best people in it. So it's where I want to be.
Yeah. Well, good segue, because I think there was a point. So you guys are just in Arizona right now, right? Mm-hmm. There was a point you were in New Mexico?
We were
for a little bit. If you don't mind me asking, what was that experience like?
It was excellent. Actually, New Mexico, great craft beer scene.
Yeah.
Great folk. We were having trouble keeping up in Arizona.
Okay.
And I think we were just a little too small for what our distributor out there was used to. And we didn't have a name yet. I mean, that was in the early days of Tower. We had a different beer lineup back then. It was just we weren't ready.
Was that when it was like I didn't say it wasn't, because Tower is never bottled, but I remember Lost Highway was bottled. Was it Twin Arrows?
We had Twin Arrows, Roadside Pale.
Yeah,
some of those early beers.
Yeah, those little stubby or the shorter bottles.
Yeah,
I love those.
The
things.
Heritage. Yeah, those were great.
Yeah.
I don't miss glass though, but they were cool to drink from. We just weren't ready in New Mexico.
Okay.
As a brewery, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. And I can say that about us 5 years ago. And if you ask me 5 years from now, I'm going to tell you the same thing about right now. Yep, back in 2021, we didn't know what the hell we were doing because we're constantly evolving and learning and getting the new tricks and adapting to the market. Our market's changed. COVID-19 changed everything. Yeah. And we're going to continue to see that in how beer goes through. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it out there. Tap towers have shrunk, which I don't think necessarily is a bad thing. I think that means fresher beers flowing over fewer faucets.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. It just means that now Stephanie Henderson, our craft consultant, she's got a harder task to get 1 of 8 instead of 1 of 16, right?
Sure, yeah.
but I think it's going to be good overall. There's just so much. There's sometimes too much beer out there. I don't know. Maybe you guys think I'm nuts for saying that, but sometimes when you get some of those weird esoteric beers, you wonder when the last time that handle was pulled, and is it still good fresh beer? And it's a tough one.
I always wonder why I would go to a certain place that had beers that were 3 feet tall, right? What was it called? The 3 feet house?
Oh,
the boots.
I was trying. It was Yard House. Yeah, I was trying to say
it wasn't the 36-inch house, was it?
the 36-inch casa. Yeah, but every time I would go there, I would I would end up. There was the last time I was there, I walked out because I was like, I don't want to be a beer snob, but I couldn't find anything because I knew last time someone had that green flash. There's no way of 250 taps are going through all of that. And my pour is all of the stuff that's been in the line for the last 7 days since the last person that got it.
And forgive me. I would rather have a lesser choice, but know that it's delicious fresh beer out of clear lines than that I could get that one weird esoteric something that they got the one torpedo and they paid $200 for it. But no one's buying it because it's so esoteric, or it's $8 for 4 ounces.
Yeah.
What is up with that too? That's a weird thing that's happening too.
Yeah. I've had this conversation with people where like, dude, you spend $4 on a 4-pack. I'm like, people will spend $60 on a 4-pack. Mm-hmm. Like if you think about getting it poured in a tap, right? If it's if an expensive, a $10 8-ounce beer. That people will pay for it, I guess. Right?
Well, and then are all of them having to say it was the best, most amazing beer ever because they can't be shamed if they just spent too much on that few ounces?
Yep. Or actually, you could just say it's horrible just to up your ranking into the snobbery rankings.
Well, no,
it has to be one of the ends of the spectrum.
And if you're going to do that, you have to make sure you sound really cool when you say it, and make sure it's on every beer social app.
That's right. That's right. We're going to excerpt that whole part, how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
So that is something that I've noticed, especially during COVID, was the number of breweries that you see on on tap room, especially in the coolers, right? Especially canned, right? You're seeing these breweries that are like, I've never heard of this. This place is from Syracuse, New York, which is cool. Like it's cool in a sense, but also I guess just in the work that I'm in, it frustrates me because, representing Arizona breweries, and there's a brewery like 1 mile that way. And now you've got all of it's in the difference between this hazy that you waited 6 days in line to get and this hazy that you walked right into the tap room. It's not that much. I mean, it's not exponentially different.
And it's, this is a thing I wonder about too is, I love Pliny, right? I mean, it's still one of my favorite beers. It's one of those things that was like an early treat.
Yeah.
But do I love it because I can't get it in Arizona, and it's a treat when I hit Colorado or California, and it tastes better because I only get it once a year?
Yeah.
I still think it's a freaking phenomenal beer, but I sometimes wonder on some of these long shot beers or rarity beers if the same thing that I'm doing with a Pliny is the same thing that folks are doing with your beer from Syracuse.
Sure.
It might just be that amazing thing that you can only get once every year.
Right.
And I don't know if scarcity makes it taste better. I think it might be human nature there.
Yeah, that's true.
We're weird people, aren't we?
We are. Yes, we are.
Because I know all three of us here have certainly had beer sent in a box from somewhere else to us.
Absolutely.
And been happy to receive it.
You can't help it, right? Like you can't help it how excited you get. You're like, all right, that wasn't that good, but that can's awesome. That was from Aquila in Florida, whatever. Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah. But you're right. It is so much better here in Arizona to drink what's there because that beer from Syracuse spent how many days on a truck, how many days on a dock. No offense to the truckers or the Syracuse beer, but most of our beers that are brewed here in Arizona are picked up same day from the brewery and put into the distributor's cold box that same day.
Yeah.
And then they're going out in a day or two to the account. So you're getting very, very fresh beer from here in Arizona.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. I mean, fresh beer tastes better unless you have one of those great oaky, agey stouts or something. But even that, that's probably going to taste good fresh too.
I'd rather have a fresh IPA myself. Yeah.
Me too.
So what's the future for Mother Road at this point, right? I mean, I know we kind of jumped up a little bit. We talked about you open Butler. Well, let's talk about Butler, right? Because so you guys are rocking here at the Mike's Pike location, and
so yeah, Butler is closed to the public now.
Yeah.
Although we are reinvigorating the tour program. 34 of 35 are fully vaccinated here at the
Okay.
tap room. So we're ready to invite guests back in now that we're all safe, and hopefully everyone else is getting safe out there. So Butler is now part of the tap room went into office space.
Okay.
The main bar area, we're bringing in 4 new 100-barrel fermenters.
Oh wow.
And then the 60s going in, and then we got some more brights coming in, and so that place will go up to about 27,000 barrels of capacity, which is very exciting. It's still small in the big picture of brewing, but our crew, I'm proud of what we're building here. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Excited to see that first 100-barrel batch go through, and
That's huge. I can't even. It must have been when we went to Four Peaks and we were walking down that aisle of just towers. Like, holy shit! That's
yeah, it's still not quite Wilson territory, but for flag we feel pretty cool.
You look at the pictures of that I took of you walking along getting the tour versus other brew houses that we've been to, and it almost looks like a cartoon or something because they're so big compared to you, where all the other ones are, like the ones behind you now, maybe double the size. Those must be like, those could fit, let's say, 40,000 Erics or something like that. It's pretty good.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, so I got to ask you this too, because I love seeing this. We were talking about this earlier, right? And it's, I don't know, it's having that local presence that normally is the presence of a bigger brand. I mean, here's where I'm going with this is, so I went to the grocery store the other day. My wife was like, you don't have to buy like the expensive IPAs today, do you? Can you just, save some money? I'm like, okay, all right. I'm going to go to Fry's. I'm going to get the hazy little thing, Sierra Nevada. Like it. It's great crushable beer.
Great little beer.
So I get to the grocery store, and it was, I don't know, let's say $19 for a 12 pack. And then I looked over and it was like $13 for a 12 pack of Mother Road. And I'm like, not even a fucking question. I'm grabbing.
It has been crazy. So we launched
Those are 12-ounce cans.
Yeah, we launched the 12-pack this year. We didn't intend to do that.
Okay.
So Kroger, Fry's parent company, they reached out to Hensley and said, would they do a 12-pack? This was like last August. And I don't know if you guys understand how long it takes to design cardboard and cans and to shrink. So when I first asked our design team, I'm like, can you put the tower art onto a 12-ounce can? Do you know what I got? I got a photo back with something that was about as polite as fuck you. And it was a can of Tower crushed down to the size of a 12-ounce can. And he said, done. Of course, Paul did a beautiful job bringing the art down. But we were going to have that ready for March 1st. And we're like, okay, that's still going to be a push with Ball and all the things you have to do with them to get a can. And then they pushed it back to February 1st. They said, do you guys want to be first to market? We'll end cap you with Four Peaks. And I have no trouble being on with Andy and Jim and Teddy and all those guys at Four Peaks. I'll happily do that. So we said, yeah. And then they pushed back to January 1. And so we were, the week between Christmas and New Year's, we were hand packing.
Wow.
On the
12
week,
packs?
12 packs on the weekends, gluing them up. We're still hand packing because our cartoner hasn't arrived yet. It was supposed to be here in March, and it's now going to get here in September.
A little bit of a delay.
So we're like a bunch of Martha Stewarts with our big industrial hot glue guns building these boxes. So if anyone has a box break, I'll tell you it was probably one of the ones I built.
Mine was actually real hard to open, so lay off on the glue a little bit there.
Didn't you find the little tab you're supposed to pull out?
I did, yeah, but I get a little crazy with them and just rip them open. I'm like, beer.
No, but that was fun. So you're going to see, you're probably going to see some other pack sizes come out from Mother Road as we switch it up a little bit. Our canning line can now handle both of those, and as soon as that switchback cartoner gets here, boy, there's going to be a sigh of relief. So we'll have all these new fermenters coming in so we can catch up all the beer, and then we'll be able to carton it reasonably, because right now it takes 3 people and they're running about 80 cases an hour. Wow. it's doing things the hard way.
Yeah.
Talk about just showing up, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's it. It's just you keep doing it, because what else can we do? I mean, we can't stop selling 12 packs now. So
Right.
Well, you said the rule earlier that you teach the students is everything costs twice as much and you make half as much, or whatever, the way you phrased it. Another one you need to add to that is everything is going to take twice as long and people want it twice as fast.
that is about the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's these lessons you keep on learning, and COVID's been so weird because what we're finding is the delays are being caused by things like fasteners, nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
They're unable to get nuts and bolts to actually build the things. Fabricators are able to do the steel, but not some of the fasteners or the pistons or whatever it is. It's been a wild time. Even getting our tanks shipped over here, we couldn't get a container. And so the tanks are running late. It's
Just because of the container, like a wooden crate type of.
no, like a shipping container.
Gotcha.
Because our tanks are manufactured outside of Shanghai, and it's crazy. Yeah. And you know what? It may be the first time that Frank Ma has ever failed in 10 years. And he has always underpromised and over-delivered. It may be the first time he's been on time. Because even he has struggled and had to split some shipping costs with us because it was so much different. The whole supply chain's wild. So this is one thing local beer has going for us in Arizona. From the brewery to the store, there's not much that can go wrong. So we have that going for us, right?
Meaning if you're delivering it yourself?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I think it's very seldom I load a keg into the back of the Honda anymore. But every once in a while,
Just to get the old feeling back?
well, we had an account oversell some beer here locally and called panicked, and I'm like, yeah, we'll run some out. We got you. You can always tell an old account because they still have my cell phone number. And believe it or not, I still answer. Oh man,
that shows what kind of owner you are, Michael, for sure. So what's the next part of the journey look like for Mother Road?
The next part of the journey is us exploring how to get more beer out of the same space, or building a new space, or coming up with some sort of novel, unique partnership. We're looking at some different options for us to either partner with other breweries on brewhouse or building something. I'm not sure. There's a board meeting tomorrow. I bet I'm going to have some good direction after that. But no, it's exciting for us. The board's intent and our crew's intent is to continue to grow the brewery. Now that we have new tanks coming in, we'll be able to start a little more experimentation over at the main brewery. That went on hold the last really 18 months, partly because of COVID, but partly because we're maxed out. I mean, we're turning tanks and we're turning them really fast.
Yeah. Well, we've heard from a couple places that they're just trying to keep up with like their staples, trying to keep their accounts, like want to do experimentation, do different things, but it's like, shit, man, we can't get that in the schedule. We got this.
So we've got a lot of the recipes that we had started pre-COVID that are ready to go back into next phase, and we'll just pick up with the notes where we left off on these experimental beers. Yeah. So you'll see some, we're looking at a low alcohol beer right now, very flavorful, but low alcohol, working with Arizona fruit. That's going to be a new neat one. I'm excited about CBD a little bit. We have been experimenting. Still not a FDA-approved ingredient, but should it become available, we've got a pretty nice beer ready to go for that.
Nice.
We've been working with other products along that nature, but we don't do that anywhere on site because that I like my licenses. But just in case that should ever become a legality, why wouldn't we at least have flavor profiles ready, sources ready? So those are some of the things we're playing with now. Really looking at a couple of lagers to get those into the main lines too. I love a good lager. They take forever, but boy, they're just so tasty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to get back into just a bigger diversity of beers as we come out of this, and hopefully all the other brewers are kind of, as we come out of our little storm shelters, we're going to be ready to rumble again.
Yeah. Love it, man. Love it. Well, cheers to you guys. Cheers to the team.
Cheers.
Cheers to that. I keep thinking that that's like a red beer because I see the reflection off of your sun things over there onto the black. I'm like, that's incredible. Oh, sorry.
I got something here.
There you
All
go.
right, we got a little bit left, right?
Luke, cheers to you too.
Cheers, guys.
Michael, thanks for having us in, man.
Hey, thanks for being here.
Yeah,
Love it.
Absolutely, man. Always a big fan of you guys and love. Oh, we got to talk about real quick. Food. You got food here now.
Oh my God, we forgot the food.
Yeah.
See, oh man, I just failed my food partner. So we're working with Jamie Thousand and his team. He runs Satchmo's and Rue 66 event space. He was an appraiser when I was an appraiser.
No shit.
That's how we met.
Yeah.
And you know what he told me? He said, one day I'm going to open up a barbecue joint. And I said, that's cool. One day I'm going to open up a brewery.
No way, dude. You need a documentary or something about your life.
And we did it. And he beat us by about a year and a half. He opened Satch earlier. And so we've been trying to do something together for years. And this finally made sense. So during COVID, with the executive order from the governor, we needed a proper, full-time menu that was ours. And so we bought a food trailer, and he's been operating it for us. And one of the best things on there is our 360 beef, which is beef from our farm, Plowing Ahead Ranches. If you look them up, get in line for a cow because they have some of the best beef running, sustainable farming down in the Verde Valley.
Are you giving them your spent grains?
All of our spent grain goes down there. So we're feeding the cattle, and then it comes back in these beautiful little white packages, and we make delicious sliders out of them. So it's a lot of fun. We got fish tacos. The sliders are good, but oh man, the blackened catfish sliders are my favorite right now. It's good stuff. If you guys have time, we'll feed you before you go.
I can.
I think we can make time. Shuffle some stuff around.
Yeah. That's what I got going on. I got a lot of drinking to do today, but
Yeah, which brewery were you heading next?
Exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, guys, he's going to be a little late.
Right. That's right. I'm a little tired. I might be a little bit tired. So, do they mix up the menu periodically, or is it?
Yep. Yeah, we change the menu about every quarter, seasonal, and we're coming up on a menu change now, and. I'm trying to get him to put his etouffee on there because he has one of the best etouffees. I swear there's a pound of butter in every cup of it. So
what is that? What is etouffee?
All sorts of deliciousness.
Oh, are you going to make me one?
No, not me. We'll see if Jamie will, but he's been working. He tempted us with it years ago for a beer pairing dinner, and it never happened. And it was the best pairing with a pale ale. And then it never happened on any menu, so I have been messing with him for almost 8 years now to get it on the menu. So I think he's finally going to do it, and then in August we're going to do a couple barbecue days out there, just showcasing the beef, and he's going to bring the big green eggs over and do some fun things for guests, a little back-to-school celebration for NAU. It'll be fun.
Heck yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you reminded me of that. Damn, see, I just, you look at your own place every day, and you're just like, you just smile, you're happy with it, and you forget that some of this is still new.
Yeah. Dude, well, it's my pleasure being hungry all the time. That's what I'm thinking.
Well,
like, what am I going to eat? Oh shit, here.
We'll get choked up with some snacks, and it'll be good.
Awesome, appreciate it, man. All right, well, that's our sign. We got to wrap this up.
Yes.
All
So
right.
Michael
I agree.
can start making us some etouffee. Actually, I got to Google that. What that is.